Hello everybody, welcome to TraderMerlin Show. It is your, I don't even know what day it is. What happens when you're sick? Is it Tuesday? Is it Wednesday? It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday, and I know that because the dog park is closed. Good to have you all with us. Good to see you, Rob. Thanks for the question on stock to flow ratio. I'll check that out today because I think that actually does play into the logic behind a much higher Bitcoin price. Hello, Tom, Shinobi, Jimmy T, Johan, Rob. We already mentioned Rob. We got David Rustiker. We got Mimi, John. Good to have you, Ken, and Les as well. So let me get rolling here. We've got a small start, and I'm sure we'll pick up some people along the way, but I don't have too much time to wait around. So today's topic was a result of several different questions. One came in from Rob, who's joining us today, talking about stock to flow ratio, which I'll explain here as we progress. Other questions coming in. Well, I guess I can just show you the questions. Is it possible for Bitcoin to hit $1 million? I feel like Dr. Evil when I say it like that, but is it possible? Well, let's see. Let's go to two different things here. I'm going to first read you the question that came in from Rob, which is, I hear a lot about stock to flow model of Bitcoin valuation. Could you cover those and other ways people are forecasting possible values of Bitcoin, please? And then Tommy says, why are you so bullish on Bitcoin? There are better platforms like Litecoin, Dash, etc. Okay. Well, I don't know if I necessarily agree with you that Litecoin or Dash are better platforms. That said, I think there probably are better. Were you talking to yourself for a while? I always talk to myself. You know, there probably are technologies out there that are better than Bitcoin. It's just that the network effect is there and the market share is Bitcoin's. It is Bitcoin, right? Are there better platforms? We could have a whole debate on that one, and I think that there might actually be a potential argument that there is better platforms to do the same thing that Bitcoin is doing. But right now, it's Bitcoin. So, I did a show, it's probably 3 years ago now. I actually think it was 2 years ago, where I said why Bitcoin will be $100,000 by the end of 2022, meaning by December 31st of next year, we will have hit $100,000 in Bitcoin. Probably going to happen a lot sooner than that, but that was my target a couple years back when I made that initial video. And in that, I explained some of the math behind why I felt that way. Certainly, I am a Bitcoin fan. There's no mystery there. But I try not to become overly, let my emotions about crypto and digital assets cloud my judgment or my thought process. So it goes down to simple math. So let me run through the basics here. Guys, I've been so busy building out content today, I didn't have a chance to build content for this show. I'm trying to do a lot more for the my crypto investor program, but we'll do what we can. So to me, it really is about four basic variables. Number one, simple supply, right? That's an easy variable to figure out. We'll look at that number here in just a second. And that's what makes Bitcoin so unique, is that limited amount of supply. Number two, Brendan, good to see you with us, my friend. Been a while. Beginning to think you didn't like me, going and hanging out there with what's his name? Oh, wow, I completely spaced out on the guy's name. Huh. All right, well, never mind. And Chris, good to see you too as well. So supply is easy. We'll look at those numbers in a second. Number two is one that most people don't factor into this, which I think is a monster piece of the equation, which is destruction. For those that do not know, destruction simply means cryptocurrency that's lost forever. So say, for example, I have an app on my phone that has right now roughly $40,000 worth of Bitcoin on it. I have a seed recovery phrase that I wrote down and I have a backup copy of it. If I lose that, and for some reason my phone got stolen, smashed, whatever, and I lose that seed phrase, my recovery phrase, then that Bitcoin, that $40,000 of the Bitcoin, is gone forever, right? It completely disappears. It's not like it literally disappears. It's just stuck in a location that nobody can access. That's called destruction, because those will never be replaced. It's not like the network looks out and says, hey, you know what? That person lost his private key. We'll just create some new Bitcoin and replace that for him because we're so nice and generous. It doesn't happen that way. And as I mentioned before, I've actually sent out some Litecoin. This was back in 2017. I was actually loading up different wallets, and long story short, I sent Litecoin to a paper wallet that I did not write down the private key to. So right now there's actually 2 wallet addresses that are sitting out there with Litecoin on it that will never be accessed because nobody has those private keys. That's destruction. That's when things are no longer accessible. So even though we have this number of 21 million that there will ever be for Bitcoin, personally, we will never, ever be in a situation where 21 million Bitcoin are fully tradable in circulation. And I'll explain that in a second. Third piece here is going to be inflation. Now, technically, right now, Bitcoin is an inflationary asset because they are creating more every day. And I'll show you the math there as well behind that. And then our fourth variable is demand. So right there, that is your math equation to what will cause Bitcoin to go to $1 million, or I think Kathy Wood saying 500,000. You got JP Morgan saying 248,000. You got Max Kaiser saying 10 million. I mean, who knows out there with regards to Bitcoin? It's all speculation, but there is some logic behind the math and the formula. So let me look a little bit deeper here. If we take this formula, first thing you got to understand is that supply equation. So right now, the talk track is there will only be 21 million Bitcoin ever. Yes, that will be 21 million Bitcoin in the year, right? It's going to be way down the road. It will be in the year 2140 is when we actually get the full amount of Bitcoin created and in supply and all things good. That's going to be obviously way down the road that none of us will be around, so who cares, right? So supply minus destruction is your tradable supply that's currently in circulation. And if we look at those numbers as of this 2 minutes before the show, there is 18.876 million Bitcoin that have been created. Okay, fine. Now, estimates vary. Right now, the estimate is that roughly 5 million Bitcoin have been destroyed, meaning that they're no longer in circulation. And that's a rough estimate. And how do we figure that one out? Well, there's a lot of different sources out there. Let me see if I can bring one up for you real quick. One second. I should have been more prepared, but like I said, I've been really pretty darn busy. There we go. So I'll bring this page up for you, and this should make everybody feel a little bit ill. You look at the number one address here for Bitcoin. Right now, this has $17 billion worth of Bitcoin sitting there. And it's funny when people say, oh, it's not secure, you could get hacked. Trust me, if that's $17 billion, if there was any potential for this to be hacked, it would be gone already. There's no way that this is hackable. $17 billion in that wallet. This one here, you've got $10 billion and $6.6 billion, 5 points. There's massive money here. Okay, so how do we know what's been lost? The general theory is dormant addresses for over 5 years. So 5 years or more, they're saying they haven't moved in 5 years. They've probably lost their private key. It's done. So here's a chart showing you the cumulative addresses that have not moved in 5 years. That's this vertical line. So you can see this vertical line saying right now it's 4.27, so I rounded up a little bit, fine. I think it's actually higher than they're foretelling here, just by having worked with students in the crypto investor program as well as other people I know in the industry. There's got to be more than 5 million missing. If you want to look for more than 4 years, well, we click this one. Right now, that would put us at about 5.26 million addresses have not moved at all in 4 years. Okay, Brennan says, not a waste. They donated to the network. They're helping inflate prices, right? So this is a huge factor that most people really, I think, are not paying attention to. Right now, if you guys are following the media hoopla between Craig Wright and other people, he's being sued. Craig Wright is just a pathological liar, it seems, in the industry, who claims that he's Satoshi Nakamoto. And there is a 1 million Bitcoin address. 1 million Bitcoin. That's never moved. It's never moved. So my thinking is either Satoshi died and he just can't claim it, or someone forgot the private key to that hard drive, which was mining Bitcoin in the early days. So we'll see in this court case what happens, but for you guys might hear the name Craig Wright. That guy is generally perceived as a fraud in the industry, but he says he's Satoshi Nakamoto. Okay, so back to our math. If a person was holding Bitcoin for the long term, why wouldn't they leave it dormant? Good question. And usually they do. Now, what a lot of people do, they're moving some things around from one location to the other. But you're right. If I'm a maximalist and I'm somebody who thinks Bitcoin's going to go to that $1 million price, then why would I move it, right? I have pretty much all my Bitcoin right now is not going to move, although in the CIL program, I am moving some. I have a little less than half of my Bitcoin I'm using to earn yield. So I'm moving it around to different exchanges like Celsius or Voyager and Nexo and getting a 5 or 6% yield per year on that Bitcoin. But for the most part, the rest of it is just sitting there not moving. Is exactly 1 million? I don't know, Shinobi. I'm not sure if it's exactly 1 million on the dot. That's a number I've heard. Either way, that's a boatload of money, right? That's a boatload of money. Okay, so let's keep going through the formula here. So anyway, if you guys want fun, there's actually a couple other cool things I like to do. You can go down through here and because it's like, well, why isn't that Bitcoin address on here? Right? If it's that big, why isn't it here? I don't understand why that. But they say there's a 1 million Bitcoin address that hasn't moved. I don't see it on this list, which is kind of weird. But what's also cool about this is you guys can see. I'll just pick one arbitrarily here. This is a. Oh, sorry. These are the dormant addresses. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me go back. So now we are back to the first page. So you can see that the biggest address right here has 288,000 Bitcoin. Well, where's the 1 million? I want to see the $1 million address because that's a $60 billion account. Could you imagine $60 billion? One thing I actually like to do, and I know I'm a total dork, is you look at some that have not been active for a while. So for example, you can go zoom out here and you can see the last in. This tells you the last time that money was put into this account. And you can scroll down here, and some of them, actually, let's go to first out, last out. So you can see here, these ones don't have an out, meaning these addresses here with nothing have never had anything pulled out. There's a $4.72 billion account with nothing taken out of it. And if you click on this address, you can see that somebody back in 2012, actually this is 2011, put in 80,000 Bitcoin. Oh, you want to have a fun little track through history. It's right now worth about $5.3 billion. And when initially put in, back in 2012, let me show you the exact time here. Let's go all the way down to 2012 here and see what the value was when they put it in there. They were trading at 93 cents. So that was a $74,000 transaction. So for $74,000 in 2011, this was in March 1st of 2011, somebody deposited all those Bitcoin and it's now worth $5 billion. You talk about a good investment. Goodness gracious, what an amazing ride that would have been. Anyway, just something fun to do. So going back to my formula, if you take these numbers and assuming 5 million have been destroyed, we'll never get those back. That means that right now our tradable supply is 13.8 million. Now, there aren't any concrete numbers on this, but I'm a firm believer that you have the entire world chasing 13.8 billion Bitcoin or 13.8 million Bitcoin. Again, mine are not for sale. I will not be selling mine under any circumstances for years, which means that mine aren't part of this 13.8 million. I know Brendan and Big Eb here also own Bitcoin, and they're not part of that 13.8 million because you're not selling right now. You guys are thinking, 100,000, 200, 500, something much, much higher. So it's interesting to me to look at this number and we think, oh, this is the total number of shares total number of Bitcoin is 13.8 million. I would argue it's less than half of that. So assuming we got, let's say 13.8, we'll round up to 14 million here. I would say that less than 7 million are in circulation. Less than 7 million. And that just means that you could go to your Coinbase, your Kraken, your Binance, your BlockFi, and trade it there. So when you have such a small amount of an asset class that people are trying to chase, prices are going to go up. Okay? That's the major piece behind the math of all of this are those variables. Now, the other piece here is the inflation side, right? So inflation is the I piece of the equation. And just to put it in perspective, this is how much is created every single day, year, etc. You have 6.5 Bitcoin created every 10 minutes. That means you have 39 Bitcoin created every hour, right? 24 hours in a day gives us 936 Bitcoin per day, 341,640 are created every year. Now that will change in about 3 years. In 3 years, all these numbers will get cut in half because they will cut the reward for Bitcoin in half. So while it's inflationary technically at this point because it is creating new Bitcoin, at a certain point, we will cross over. And I do believe that that's probably going to happen in the next 3 years. And the crossover will mean that more Bitcoin are being destroyed than are actually being created. So right now, again, 6.5 Bitcoin being created every 10 minutes. When we get to our next halving event, which should happen in, I want to say 2024, I believe is the next one. 2024, so we got a few years. Then all of a sudden the reward goes to 3.25 every 10 minutes. Now, destruction most likely will be higher than the actual creation, and therefore Bitcoin becomes deflationary. At some point, it will become deflationary just because there'll be no more Bitcoin being created. Let's see. So that's the main pieces I have as to why Bitcoin will be going up significantly. The last factor there, which I don't have any graphic on, because again, I threw this together at the last second, would be the demand side of the equation. And I don't think it's any mystery. Bitcoin in particular and digital assets are the hottest topic on the planet. And this is not just an American event. This is a Canadian event, a South American event, a European event. It is a global event that's bringing more and more attention. And again, when you have countries like El Salvador, who are very small, but are using Bitcoin as a monetary system for their people, that's starting to catch eyebrows from a lot of governments around the world. And you heard about Ukraine, you heard about Brazil potentially bringing on board Bitcoin as well. Why not Litecoin, right? I saw the gentleman earlier was asking, why not Litecoin? Litecoin's better. Well, Litecoin is essentially taking Bitcoin's code, multiplying it by 4. It doesn't necessarily make it better. It's a little bit faster. There's more supply, which is fine. But I think the network effect, the stability of how the proof of work system is working for Bitcoin still makes it the lead dog. And I agree with Brendan. He says, no stopping Bitcoin. Absolutely, no stopping Bitcoin. Jerry, and this goes back to Brendan's comment, Jerry says, since the governments hate Bitcoin, can they tax the hell out of it and outlaw too? Just trying to leave a contingency plan for myself. They absolutely could outlaw it. Now, here's where it gets kind of weird, and again, I'm not insinuating that you should do anything illegal here, but here's a hole in the system. If I wanted to, I could take my Nano Ledger S, I could create a paper wallet, I could download an app on my phone that I don't have to disclose any information about, and I could move my Bitcoin over to those locations, and now the IRS can't do anything about it, right? The IRS could come to me and say, well, hey, you moved your Bitcoin from Coinbase to this address. And I said, I moved it to that address and I lost my private key. So now what they would have to do is the IRS would literally have to watch that address for here through the end of time just to make sure that you weren't lying. So they can't confiscate that address. They can't go to the network and say, could you freeze this address for us? They have 0.1 Bitcoin there that they didn't report. As much as they dislike Bitcoin, can't stop it. Now, if you kept your Bitcoin on the exchanges like Coinbase or Kraken or Binance, could those specific governments come in and say, we're going to freeze those assets of Coinbase? Yes. And now I lose my cryptocurrency that way. But as long as you hold the custodialship, you are the holder of your private keys, whether that's a paper wallet, a hardware wallet, or some other device, then you have that Bitcoin forever, which is why I have half of mine, still, a little less than half is on exchanges. The other half is cold storage and will never be pulled off of that one for many, 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 many moons. So I guess the question which came up is, how high does this thing go? Is it possible for Bitcoin to get to $1 million per Bitcoin? It seems inconceivable, right? But remember, it's all a math equation. It's simply how many Bitcoin are out there, which is the supply minus the destruction. Right now, that puts us at about 13.8 million. And then it is the creation of new ones, which we've seen. We're getting about, I think I said 300,000 a year. And then you have demand. And if demand continues to increase, if governments continue to accept it, and more importantly, if people like Tim Cook say, hey, we're going to add Bitcoin to our balance sheets, they're not going to add in $100,000 of Bitcoin. It's going to be like, we're going to buy $1 billion worth. That money is now done what? It's purchased Bitcoin, pulled it out of circulating supply yet again, because now it's going to be stuck on a balance sheet for a longer period of time. It's not traded. And therefore, that available amount of Bitcoin decreases to those that want to go onto Coinbase and buy it, which does what to price? It drives it up. Which is when you look at somebody like Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor is probably one of the biggest influencers on Bitcoin in the world. And he used to be a hater of it, by the way. He actually has some tweets that he posted on his Twitter feed 4 or 5 years ago where he was just talking about how it's a failed system and Bitcoin's a scam. Now, all of a sudden, he is the biggest flag-waving person for Bitcoin on the planet, and he's actually helping by driving prices up. He's not selling his Bitcoin. Matter of fact, he's selling debt in his company, MicroStrategy. He's selling debt at, I think, 6%. So he'll say, all right, I'm going to sell $500 million worth of debt of my company. I'll pay you 6% for that. A lot of people go, oh, 6%, great. He takes that $500 million, buys $500 million worth of Bitcoin, which takes it, puts it on the balance sheets. It's now an asset for his company. And then he's removing those $500 million worth of Bitcoin from the circulating supply. And it does what? It drives up price even more. It's crazy. He's an insane dude, Brendan. He's an insane guy, but he is driving up the price of Bitcoin by constantly leveraging his company, buying more, and then removing that supply. So the more supply that's taken out of the equation and demand increasing is what's going to create these parabolic moves. Let me see. There's a whole bunch of comments coming through. Good luck for the government never finding my nano. Even if they did, good luck accessing it. Exactly. Right? So Shinobi is right. He says the only, and this to me is the biggest risk to Bitcoin. It's that somebody cracks SHA-256. If somebody were to do that, then, Bitcoin would probably be at zero within 24 hours. I mean, no one would want it if there was that kind of vulnerability. Are we at a point now where the technology is good enough to crack SHA-256? No, we don't have quantum computing at that level yet. 5-10 years down the road might be a different story, but my gut would tell me that if it got close, technology was getting close, maybe it'll change the hashing algorithm from SHA-256 to SHA-512 or 1028 or 1024, whatever. Yeah, 1024, and just keep increasing the difficulty of the algorithm. That would be my assumption, but we'll worry about that bridge when we get there. Tough questions coming, Merlin, but SHA-256, if the NSA created it, can they kill it if that theory is true? No, I don't think that they can kill SHA-256. Once the formula, right? Once that cryptographic function is there, you can't remove it now. He can't unsee it, right? Once that's been seen, he can't unsee it. Now, could the NSA have a backdoor into it? I don't know. I don't really believe that conspiracy theory stuff. I don't think the NSA has a backdoor to SHA-256. No, I think that it is what it is. Would you take a loan to buy Bitcoin or other crypto in a similar fashion to Michael Saylor? Great question. Right now, the stats, the figures would say, and this is very dangerous for me to say because I'm a risk manager. I'll tell you this: I'm not going to do it. I would not do it. I'm buying Bitcoin with capital that I have. That if I lost it, it's not the end of the world. Now, if I pulled out a $1 million loan against my house and went and bought Bitcoin, in my mind personally, that's irresponsible and reckless. I can't afford to have my house taken away from me. I never want to have that happen. However, what Michael Saylor is saying, and he's absolutely right so far, is that each year Bitcoin is moving up at a rate of 150 or 157% per year since inception. So if I'm paying a loan of 6%, but I'm getting 157% rate of return, my wealth is exponentially growing year over year over year. So it would make sense. I just think it's dangerous. And I'm not that kind of person. Personally, I would not do it. Michael Saylor is taking that risks. However, remember what Michael Saylor is doing it with his company's money. I don't know if he's doing it with his own personal money. He probably is doing it to some extent. But Brendan, you were a filthy speculator. And that's okay, man. You've just got to know that you are putting yourself at a pretty significant risk, right? I mean, heaven forbid they should crack SHA-256 because you'll be holding nothing. Nothing. And I don't want that to happen. I'd hate to see that happen. I mean, it would hurt me too. But I would still have my home and all my assets. I would just lose the value of the Bitcoin holding. So if you look at Kathy Wood's assessment, she was talking about it being $500,000. I think that it gets actually potentially even higher and higher and higher than 1 million. And it seems weird. People are going to say, well, why would you pay more than $1 million per Bitcoin? It's scarcity. So this goes back to the question that came in from Rob, which is about stock to flow ratio. Okay, so stock to flow ratio was really used for gold and silver. And what it's designed to do is just kind of does a comparison between if you take the available stock, meaning inventory, shares, or in this case, we'll talk about coins with Bitcoin, and you divide it by the flow, meaning how much is being created each year. And you can see how these step ups, they line up with the halving events of Bitcoin, right? So the halving events happen every 4 years, and there's these steps that happen every 4 years as the production numbers start to decline. What's noteworthy about this model is it has been very spot on. You notice here that the price of Bitcoin, which is kind of the little bar chart, and then you have this blue dashed line, that's the stock to flow ratio. And this is what it's forecasting for Bitcoin. It's forecasting a significantly higher price, and we've been sticking right to it. I mean, it's been pretty lockstep on since inception, if we overlay this model. So right now it puts us here, which is roughly, $60,000 on Bitcoin. We're at almost the tail end of 2021, just about to hit 2022. Well, what's noteworthy is if you see here, he's saying that by 2023, I actually love the stock to flow ratio because now all of a sudden it lines up perfectly with my forecast. It says we'd be at $100,000 by the beginning of 2022. And near the end of 2023, all of a sudden this chart goes logarithmic. But saying that by the time we get to this year here, which is 2026, so 4 or 5 years away, we should be at $1 million based off this model. Yeah, stock to flow ratio is interesting. And I'm not using this to make my investment decisions. I really think that the math behind Bitcoin is what's driving the price. Its utility will continue to increase demand. So if we continue to see improvements to the system, and we just upgraded I say we, like I had anything to do with it. They just upgraded the network for Bitcoin and upgraded something called Taproot, which now gives you 3 big upgrades, including things called Schnorr signatures and Taproot activations and Taproot ledger stuff. That makes the system better and more for adoption. Okay, it's really more about the adoption rate, and if Bitcoin continues to become adopted around the world, whether that's institutions putting on their balance sheet, whether that's more people like you and me saying, okay, I'll buy a little bit for my portfolio, or just third world countries like El Salvador saying, we'll open up to our people as a currency mechanism, then demand will continue to surge. Now, if we continue to reduce the number of Bitcoin being created every 4 years, notice where the stair steps are. He's got it out here mapped out on the stock to flow ratio, which Bitcoin has fallen. I think you'd all agree, this is a pretty awesome tie. I mean, it is really pegged to this blue line here. It's awesome. Well, if you look out here, it says at 2035, Bitcoin should be somewhere around $80 million per coin. 80 million. Well, I'm very happy if that happens because that will probably put me in the billionaire category, right? Yeah, I agree with Brandon, you always come from left field. No, I agree. I agree. John McAfee even came out, a week or so before he died saying, if I do die, I didn't kill myself. Do newbies gravitate towards crypto first? Used to be Forex. Great question, Margaret. I would have to say yes. And the only reason is it's so much easier to get involved with crypto. Forex it seems a little more complicated. You have specific brokers. There's far more cryptocurrency brokers because there's no real regulation out there. So I think the opportunity to get involved in crypto is much easier than it is with Forex. Plus, you very rarely, almost never will you look at a currency chart of, let's say, the US dollar, Japanese yen and go, whoa, man, it's down 52% today. That's just never going to happen. Even when they unpegged the Swiss franc, it didn't drop 50%. Those types of moves don't happen. Now, granted, we have the power of leverage with Forex, where you can, if you're in the US, you got 50 to 1. You go internationally, you got 500 or 1,000 to 1. But now I can go to crypto, which has these incredibly volatile moves where I don't even need leverage, or I can also be using leverage on some of these different sites, getting 5 to 1, 10 to 1, even 100 to 1 leverage with cryptocurrency. To me, that's crazy to think that you'd have 100 to 1 leverage on cryptocurrencies. But I've been making some trades in the CIL program where actually I was 10 to 1 leverage on a futures product, and it was an awesome rate of return, 100% in about a week. Perfect, love it. But yeah, I think, Margaret, you probably are seeing a lot of people starting off now in the financial markets by jumping into crypto, and this actually pains me. It really does pain. It scares me because the way I've designed the crypto program for OTA is it's about analysis, it's about research, and making sure that if you're buying something, you have a reason for it. Now you've got these guys buying, Floki Shibu coin and Moki Doki Doopy coin and the poop coin and shit coin. I mean, literally, there's one called shit coin. And all they are scams, right? They're pump and dump scams. I almost feel like there needs to be some sort of regulation in the marketplace because it's so easy to create a cryptocurrency or a token, list it, pump it, and then bail. I mean, you saw that with Squid Games. A lot of people lost everything they put into Squid Games because it got a rug pull. It's a scam. And there's just too much of that out there. That said, I don't want those companies like the Squid token to tarnish what Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana and Avalanche and Cardano are doing to change the entire financial ecosystem of the globe. To me, that is a much more valuable piece. It's a game changer, in my opinion. So can Bitcoin get to a million? I don't think it's a question of can it. It's just a question of when. As long as there's no major disruption, a crack of SHA-256 or some global banning of it, it should go up. And again, even if they globally ban it, it will still be there. You just won't have the access to cryptocurrencies like you normally would. So that makes it less desirable. So, for example, in the United States, we're one of the biggest consumers of cryptocurrencies in the world. If all of a sudden the U.S. said it's illegal to have any exchanges in the United States, and if you are caught trading cryptocurrencies or investing in cryptocurrencies anyway, it's a 6 months jail sentence. What's that going to do to the vast majority of people in the United States? Now, granted, you'll probably still have people like myself and Brendan are going, good luck, catch me. But the vast majority, 6 months in jail, you know what? I'm out. I'll leave it alone. And that could have a dramatic impact. I don't think it'll get that extreme, honestly. I think we've got too many politicians right now that are in the crypto camp. Now, that said, I thought Gensler would be great as an SEC chair because he taught blockchain at Harvard. Well, I mean, this guy taught blockchain. He should be going, I can finally have an input in blockchain technology for the entire world, and now all of a sudden he's cracking down on crypto. So, you would think someone's going to do great, and they might not. You think someone's going to be absolutely horrible, and they may actually do good things. So, time will tell. But I think Bitcoin absolutely gets to $1 million at some point. Certainly not next year, probably not in 2023. But, is 2025, according to this stock to flow ratio chart, is 2025 out of line? No, I think that's potential. By 2030, pretty solid bet that we're going to be at $1 million or more per Bitcoin. Which is why, I've been just saying, buy it and hold it. If you buy Bitcoin, just put it in an account, dump it somewhere, and leave it. Leave it alone. Pretend it doesn't exist and just let that baby continue to move up. It's going to have its 30% drawdowns. We've seen some pretty ugly price chart moves on Bitcoin here recently. Let's go look at Bitcoin, shall we? Here's Bitcoin right now. That's a pretty significant drop we've had, but could it go down further? Sure. Could it go to 47? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny when we look at these price moves. If you look back just to August of last year, Bitcoin was at 9,000. And we've almost had a 10x move in a little over a year. Awesome. But it could have a significant pullback, just like it did back here in May. That was a pretty dramatic pullback. I know a lot of people were happy because it was a buying opportunity. But, just don't put yourself in a position where you're overly leveraged and needing this capital, where if it drops 50%, all of a sudden it squeezes you out and you are no longer part of the equation. So, let's see, what else do I got here? I'm a chameleon. I would go to South America to cash my Bitcoin. Yep. And I'm kind of the same, Jerry. If I've got all this Bitcoin on a paper wallet, and let's just assume Bitcoin gets to 3 million or $1 million a coin, well, that gives me several $1 million. I will gladly go to a Bitcoin ATM in Thailand and pull out, $1,000 a day out of this Bitcoin ATM or whatever I can. I'll pay even high exorbitant fees. I don't care at that point, right? I think it's possible to go other places in the world or even sell it to third parties and be like, hey, I'll sell it to you, at 10% cheaper than current market price, but I want cash. Let's see. There's a lot of clickbait for this subject, but Merlin, yeah, thanks, Big Ed. There is massive clickbait. And by the way, for anybody who, I know most of you are regulars here, but for those of you who might not be very careful what you are clicking on. Anytime you go out to Google, and let me just real quickly show you, because this is kind of important for anybody who does not want to be scammed. I'll go to Google and I'll just type in Bitcoin exchange. Bitcoin exchanges, right? You notice right here at the top, it says add. And you can see Coinbase, you can see Gemini, eToro. These are all the main players in the crypto space. I would just kind of personally recommend not clicking on these, because one of the things I'm reading about now, you can't even see it because my screen is off. Hold on one sec. Let me move it over for you. There you go. You guys can see it says add before the URL. What's happening now is some companies are going out there and they are paying for ad space on Google, but it would be like www.coinbase2.com, and they're creating a fake site. And so when you log in, you click on this and log in with your Coinbase information, they now have access to your account. So it's kind of scary to think that, but I would scroll. Like if you knew you wanted to go to Coinbase.com, I would go scroll down or just type in directly Coinbase.com. But be careful with these ads. I read a couple articles that nefarious companies are putting ads that look like the real deal, and then once you log in, they phish you and take your money. Merlin, Bitcoin and crypto related equities, DeFi technologies up 160. Yes, you did. And I think all DeFi stuff's going to do great. I'm doing a special session tomorrow with my group talking about the metaverse. Right? I think the metaverse is kind of the next evolution of this, and saying now it's putting a lot of things into action. It's saying let's take NFTs, let's take property possession, ownership, real physical tangible place ownership, and put them in virtual worlds. Whether you're going to build your own home in Decentraland or going to go into there's so many different ones out there. You're going to go Star Atlas, which is a really cool looking project that's coming out. The metaverse to me is very interesting, offers a lot of opportunity. Thoughts on the Rivian IPO? Its market cap right now bigger than GM. Excuse me. I'll look at the price chart of it here. Rivian. You had a great pullback. It's funny because I was really hoping it would keep going up so I could buy some puts on it when they finally allow puts. So here's Rivian. You can see this is a weekly. We'll go to a daily here. I think it's way overvalued. I think it's absolutely deserving a pullback, and this is what you typically get with IPOs, is a big surge up, and then all of a sudden it'll come crashing back down. We had a similar picture. You guys might remember. When we had, remember Nikola, guys? I think when we actually started the TraderMerlin show, we were talking about Nikola, and I said, this thing's going way down. Way, 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 way down. And look what happened. There was that early IPO action. Everyone got super excited. There was the big pump, jumped to $30, jumped all the way up to $90+ per share. And then we were going, sell it, short that thing, buy some puts. I actually did buy puts at one point, but they were so overvalued I barely made money. Does Rivian have the same fate as this? No, I don't think so. Rivian is, I think, legit. I think they got big players backing him. But there is a history of overvaluation at the very beginning because people get so excited about owning something. Now keep in mind, Rivian was at a low price of $95 just a couple of days ago on the 10th of November. By the time we jumped to the 16th of November, it hit a high of $179. So, it's a $90 move in 5 days. It's not a cryptocurrency. Big Ed says, come on, Merlin, they sold 48 cars, 2 employees. Yes, I agree with that. My point isn't, are they doing poorly financially? My point is, are they a real company that's really producing vehicles that could grow? I believe yes. Does it warrant a $146 price? Hell to the friggin' no, right? But as you guys have seen, markets can remain irrational longer than most people can remain solvent. And, if you found some way to short Rivian somehow, maybe with some deflot swaps, shorten that thing, you'd be underwater right away. So I think Rivian is a decent. Oops, no, we're not doing intro. I don't need no music there. I think Rivian produces a great looking car. I like the truck. I like the model. But you look at something like Lucid. They're producing cars as well. Which would you say is a safer play here? I think Lucid's still overextended too. I kind of agree with Big Eb. I think Big Eb, you said this a while back, and you were saying that GM might be a better play long term. I know it sounds weird, but GM has the facilities, has the infrastructure. They just need some retooling, and they can completely change their business around. So I kind of agree with you. I think that GM might actually be a little bit of a better play longer term in the EV space. It's exciting to see Lucid because their cars are cool. It's exciting to see Rivian because their trucks are cool, but this is all really hyped up. Yep. No revenues, no profit. It will never grow into its valuation, but they are partnered with Amazon and Ford. Exactly, Tom. And that's it. You've got the two big companies there to help bail you out. As we've seen historically, Ford's been so good with their money over the years. So I'm not in them. I'm not in Lucid. I'm not in Rivian. I was really hoping I could get Rivian out far enough where I could start buying some puts on it. Because when you see valuations that are that high, it's just crazy. All right, what else do I have here? Yep, Shinobi's Sandbox is pretty cool. There's a lot of really cool projects. Sandbox seems to be positioning itself to be in the upper tiers of the metaverse discussion. Certainly because the people they're bringing on, you got Snoop Dogg in there and a bunch of other major people. But there's a whole list of very cool companies. Check out Star Atlas. Star Atlas is just a game. It's not really a metaverse, but I've been digging deeper into it. It's kind of cool. You can actually start building a profession, and you might be the guy who is literally the repair shop for spaceships, which is so freaking weird to think that you could literally make a side hustle working a job in a game. Anyway, I could go on and on about it. Brendan says, ETH is metaverse fuel. Right now it is, but I showed this to my students yesterday. Let me show you this one. You guys might have seen my little Twitter vent. Where is it? Oh, maybe I didn't. Oh, it's in the different folder. Let me bring up this folder for you guys. I'll show you why I think Ethereum has some problems right now. And if they don't fix these problems, I think Ethereum is in deep doo-doo. Here's an example of why Ethereum sucks. Now, I'm a big fan, second largest holding in my portfolio, but this is why they suck. I was working on a different metaverse application, and I just wanted to send over literally cents to play there. This upper red box is how much Ethereum I was trying to send. 0.000047 Ethereum. It's literally 20 cents. 20 cents. Look at the gas fee. So for me to send 20 cents to this metaverse company, it was a $132 fee. So I had to pay $132.85 to send 20 cents. This is broken. And what's happening is Ethereum has opened the door for all these other smart contract companies. Right now, a lot of people looking at Solana and saying, hey, your fees are so much cheaper, you're faster, you do more transactions, and there are some tremendous companies that are leaving Ethereum and moving over to Solana or Avalanche or Luna or even Cardano, right? Cardano's lagging in that respect, but if you use layer 2, as Brendan says here, I'm still paying significantly higher fees. They're cheaper than layer 1 fees, but they're still very high compared to Solana's base fee. The other challenge there, Brendan, is I now have to use a secondary protocol. I have to now download another application, another username and password, and it's cumbersome for people to use layer 2. I use Arbitrum, and it's fine. It's another challenging layer that you're making the process more complicated. Simply go down to the base layer and allow it to be cheap, right? Cardano, do you see it ascending or descending in the future? I mean, long term, I see Cardano going up. It's a little odd as to why that price chart looks as bad as it does. They have not been able to get the community, I don't believe, the community to start building apps like they wanted, and you're just seeing weakness. So unfortunately, it's drifting down. But they've got a pretty big team. They got a pretty good community, and I am a fan of Charles Hoskinson and the transparency he provides for his company. They just move slower because they're academics. This is the tough problem here with crypto is you have some companies like Ethereum which move incredibly fast and make a lot of mistakes along the way. Then you have Cardano who's moving extremely slow but not really making mistakes. So, all right, I gotta run. Sunday Swap will change that. I agree, Shinobi. Sunday Swap, which is going to be Cardano's swap exchange, and also have their own stable coin, but it should have been there already, Shinobi. It's just taking too long. It's taking too long to get that established, and it should have been much faster, but that's all right. All right, let me see. I've got $10 USDT that I want to move out of my MetaMask. I know. I've actually tried to sell some stuff. I have a Civic token and a couple others that I wanted to sell, and because of the gas fees, I'm like, I'll just wait. I'm going to wait for this thing to switch over to proof of stake, but my concern as an Ethereum investor and someone who, I love Ethereum, you could very simply go into the code, change your GUI and your gas fees, and all of a sudden this becomes much simpler, right? It becomes much less fees because you're pushing people away from your networks, pushing people away. Well, it's a matter of opinion, Brendan. It's all good. All right, let's see. I did not pull up any infrastructure. I'm reading emails, so I just saw my infrastructure piece. I did not pull up your earnings calendar. Of course, we could go take a peek real quick. Target, of course, reported earnings today. Oh yes, we had Walmart yesterday, which of course Walmart barely beat earnings and took a bit of a dive. Now here is the chart of Walmart. So let me bring up that chart for you guys, and boom, there's your that's Cardano. Let's go and show you Walmart so we can see the follow through because they had a pretty big down day, right? And continuing to follow through. So they officially closed that gap. I talked about that on yesterday's show. Does it continue to drift lower? I don't know. I'm kind of hoping it does. I actually can see myself buying some Walmart for the long haul, but we'll see how far this thing drops. I'm not buying right now. For today's action, we did have the popcorn trade of the day, which I don't have TradeStation. Oh, do I? I think I closed my TradeStation, unfortunately, so I won't be able to pull up this chart for you. Let's see if I can. Because we had NVIDIA. And it's always fun to go look at the 5-minute time frame of NVIDIA. Yeah, I actually have the chart here for you, so let me open that up. And where is my cursor? Which should help me get to, there we go. All right, so here's your NVIDIA chart. We'll go 5 minutes, and then I'll show you the 24-hour time frame. There it is. So you had a pretty big jump up. It was closed the day right around 292, hit a high of right around 309. So a nice pop up. Actually, not as volatile as I thought it would be. I kind of expected it to be a little bit more volatile, but it did okay. On the earnings front, you also had, let me see, Cisco. Cisco was aftermarket close. Obviously, Cisco is important because it's a member of most of the major market indexes, right? It's a member of the NASDAQ, it's a member of the S&P and the Dow, down 6.32%. Now, that may seem bad, but don't fret too much because it's not like it's a major weighting anymore in the NASDAQ or S&P or Dow. It's just in those indexes. So, pretty big spike down there for Cisco. And then let's look at Target. Target came out before the market opened, so we won't need the same picture. But you can see they had a pretty aggressive spike down early this morning and then just kind of flatlined. So Target on the day down about 4.75%. And then lastly, you've got Lowe's. And Lowe's companies reported earnings before market open as well. Looked like they reported fairly decent. They beat earnings by 17%. End of the day up about 0.4%. So, all right, that's it from your earnings calendar. As far as the economic calendar, cooking for today, most of the stuff came in line with expectations. I was actually kind of surprised to see the Canadian markets come out in line with expectations with regards to CPI numbers. I'm drawing a blank there. CPI numbers for the U.S. We had our crude oil inventories, and we didn't talk about that, which I probably should. You guys saw crude oil. I was expecting there to be a retracement. It came right into an area of the breakout. So we had these charts up here. Right, we broke above it, became bullish on it, and all of a sudden today we get this nice little retest of that breakout move. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens tomorrow. With regards to crude oil, it had a lot to do with the inventory data. inventory numbers were much lower than expected, which is shocking because normally that means the price goes up. All right, they expected there to be 1 million barrels of oil created. There was actually an oil contraction of 2.1 million barrels, which is kind of odd. Alex, dab nabbit, I meant to get your questions. I'll do your question tomorrow, Alex. I'll definitely get to that one. I did get it, and I received everything, so thank you for that one. All right, let's see. What do I got? Hey, Rob, thanks so much, man. Appreciate that. Always love the contributions. I wish I could say save it and I'll just buy me a pint when I come over to the UK, but I don't see any trips over to the UK in quite some time. Unfortunately, I'd love to get out and travel a little bit more, but not happening right now. All right, Algorand. Yep, Algorand's pretty good. I do own Algorand. It's, this is the challenge in crypto is I'm trying to buy all of these companies and then slowly building bigger positions in ones that I feel might take the lead, So right now I'm not adding to Cardano. I'm adding to Avalanche. I'm adding to Polkadot. I'm adding to Chainlink, and I'm adding to Solana. Those are the ones I've been adding to my position. So, all right, cool. That's gonna do it for me for today, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. I do think you will see Bitcoin hit $1 million. Hopefully, while I'm doing this show, you never know. But that was kind of the big question. It was, will we get there? So, Rob and others that sent in the question, thank you. Is it possible for Bitcoin to hit $1 million? Absolutely. I don't even think it's just a question. I think it's going to be just a when, right? When will it get there? That is, to me, the big question. I say in probably 2030, $1 million would be easy to say we're there. All right. That'll do it for everybody. If you have questions, email me, TraderMerlin@gmail.com. You can send them in that way. If you are watching the archive version and you made it all the way to the end, congratulations. I'm surprised you made it. Put your comments down below the video on YouTube. That way I can look like I have somebody talking on my YouTube channel. Until then, guys, happy trading. I will see you on our Thursday show. Getting near the tail end. I'm looking forward to a glass of whiskey on Friday. I'll see you guys then. Take care.